Welcome to Unbreakable Truth. In today's video, we explore a story of unexpected connection, deep-seated judgment, and the quiet resilience of a woman who refused to let age define her worth. Every moment counts, and some moments change everything. My name is Margaret, and I'm 68 years old. I've always considered myself an ordinary woman, quiet, reserved, someone who preferred the predictable rhythm of her garden and the silence of early mornings. For the last 14 years since my husband passed away, I've lived alone in the same house where we once shared late-night conversations, burnt toast breakfasts, and an endless stream of laughter echoing through its modest halls. It's strange, the way life goes silent after someone leaves. At first, it's deafening. The absence is loud and constant. But with time, you grow used to it. You stop expecting the creak of the floorboard outside your door at midnight. You stop setting the table for two. You start believing that quiet is peace. And in many ways, it is. That was the rhythm of my life, routine, gentle, and undisturbed. Until one breezy Thursday afternoon. I remember the air was cool and sweet, the sky streaked with soft pinks and faded blue as I trimmed the lavender near my front porch. The garden was my little sanctuary. It grounded me. The soil between my fingers, the humming of bees, it reminded me I was still alive. Still breathing. Still here. I hadn't expected company that day, but then I heard the gate creak open. It was Leo, my neighbor's grandson. He was 19, maybe 20, though he carried himself with a calm and respect that felt older. He had one of those rare presences, the kind that doesn't try too hard, the kind that simply listens. He greeted me with a warm smile and a handful of tools, offering to help with the yard. I smiled back, grateful. That's how it started. Nothing grand, nothing planned. Just a simple act of kindness. I hadn't realized how lonely I'd been until that afternoon. We worked side by side, mostly in silence, interrupted only by small laughter or the occasional conversation about the stubbornness of weeds or the glory of spring rain. Leo reminded me of my son, Michael, in the early years, before life and ambition carried him far away. Michael had once spent his afternoons lying in that same garden, asking about the names of flowers, listening to stories about how I met his father in a dusty old bookstore on a rainy Tuesday. Leo had that same look in his eyes, that unfiltered curiosity, that soft attentiveness. He wasn't just hearing me, he was listening. Later that afternoon, he glanced at the attic door and asked what was up there. I laughed. A mess, I told him. A dusty, untouched archive of my past, boxes filled with old Christmas cards, forgotten dresses, photo albums I hadn't dared open in years. I can help you with it, he said. And I surprised myself by saying yes. The attic was warm and smelled of old paper and cedar. As we opened box after box, pieces of my past poured out, one memory after another. I held up a yellowing photograph of my wedding day. My dress, simple but elegant. My husband, James, tall and smiling with that crooked grin that used to melt my heart. Leo asked about him, and I told him stories I hadn't spoken out loud in over a decade. How James used to play Sinatra on Sunday mornings. How he built the garden bench from scratch. How he kissed my forehead every night without fail. There was laughter in those memories, and pain too. But in sharing them, I felt something stir. A warmth I had forgotten. A softness. Later that evening, I brewed tea, 2 cups, and we sat on the back patio under the soft glow of twilight. I told Leo about my childhood. How my sister and I used to dance barefoot in the rain. How we used to dare each other to climb the tallest tree in our backyard. He listened. Really listened. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. That night after Leo left, I sat on the porch long after the stars came out. I wasn't thinking about the whispers that might follow, or the assumptions that might come. It felt innocent, natural, beautiful even. But that's when everything began to unravel. The next morning, as I swept the front porch, I noticed something different in the air. The way Mrs. Delaney, my neighbor from across the street, paused too long while walking her dog. The way her eyes narrowed slightly. And later that day, another neighbor knocked on my door with a half-hearted smile and just checking in, but her questions weren't really questions. They were suggestions, veiled with concern, drenched in judgment. "Is everything all right, Margaret? I saw Leo leaving yesterday. He's a nice boy, but that word again. That sharp, pointed but that never leads anywhere good." By evening, the gossip had taken root. A note appeared in my mailbox, anonymous. Just a single line, "You should be more careful." People talk, and they did. They talked in whispers at church, in glances at the grocery store, in conversations that paused when I entered the room. My book club, which I had attended for years, suddenly stopped sending invites. No explanation, just silence. Even my daughter called, not with worry, but with disapproval. "Mom," she said, "what are you doing with a young man like that? Don't you think people will get the wrong idea?" Her voice wasn't warm. It was cold. Controlled. As if I had embarrassed her. As if I had become a burden. I didn't know how to explain it. That it wasn't about Leo. It wasn't even about companionship. It was about being human, about connection, about remembering that I was more than just an old woman living in a quiet house. I tried to brush it off, to carry on with grace. But the silence around me grew louder, heavier. Leo came by again days later. He looked worried, confused. I saw the questions in his eyes. But I couldn't let him get pulled into this ugliness. So I asked him not to come around for a while. I told him the truth. People didn't understand. He nodded, reluctant. He didn't say much. Just hugged me gently and left. And when the door closed behind him, something inside me cracked. I sat in my favorite chair by the window that night. No tears. No anger. Just hollowness. I stared at the garden, the one we had worked on together, and for the first time it didn't bring me peace. It brought me silence. Weeks passed. Then months. Eventually the whispers faded. People found new rumors to chew on. The judgment passed like a storm. But it left behind damage. Cracks in the walls of my trust, and yet I didn't regret it. Not even for a moment. Because in those brief fleeting afternoons I remembered who I was. Not just a widow. Not just a mother. Not just a woman aging in a world that stops seeing women after a certain point. But someone with stories still worth telling. With a heart still capable of warmth. With a voice. And I will never apologize for that again. Let the world talk. Let them whisper behind closed doors and throw stones wrapped in polite smiles. Because I've learned that kindness, real kindness, isn't always understood. And connection? It doesn't always come in the expected package. Sometimes it comes in the form of a 19-year-old boy who sees the woman beneath the wrinkles. And sometimes it comes just when you've forgotten you're still worth being seen. So here I am, 68 years old. Still growing. Still learning. Still here. And if that makes people uncomfortable, so be it. Because the truth, the unbreakable truth is this. Loneliness may be quiet, but judgment is loud. And love? Love is whatever makes you feel alive again, even if just for an afternoon.